Welcome back to Ensuring Success 2024. We're so glad you're here with us today. I'm Gail Perry, Editor-in-Chief of CPA Practice Advisor, and I'd like to first take a moment to thank our sponsors who make this event possible, and they include ADP, Avalara, BotKeeper, Canopy, CPA.com, eFile4Biz, WriteWorks, SafeSend, SureLink, WOLTERS KLUWER, Xero, and Zoho. And in particular, we would like to thank WOLTERS KLUWER, who is sponsoring this particular session. For those of you who are just joining us now, I'd like to explain briefly how CPE works. What we do is, during the session, we'll provide you with 3 different codes. They're numerical codes. Each one is 3 digits. So we'll break 3 times during the session, and when we do, we'll display a code at the bottom of your screen, and you will hear this sound. At that time, you'll want to write down the code if you're planning on claiming CPE credit for this session. So we'll do that 3 times. So at the end of the session, or the end of the day, or whenever you want to come back to the site and claim your credit and get certificates, you can go to the CPE option at the top of the screen. Click that, and a screen will open where you can enter all the codes that you collected for all the sessions you attended, and you'll be able to download your certificates right there. During this session, if you'd like to present a question to any of our speakers, you can enter that in the Ask a Question box, which appears on your screen below this video window that you're looking at right now. If you have any tech questions, questions about CPE, having issues with sound, or whatever you need to talk to a tech person about, up at the top of the screen there is an email address, info@EnsuringSuccess.com. We have people standing by taking those questions live, so feel free to ask any questions there. We are online on social media at #DecemberCPE. So if you're a social media person and want to talk about this incredibly great event, please use our #DecemberCPE to promote us. I think that's it for my introductory stuff. I'd like to take a moment to tell you who our speakers are for this session, and I'll have them each give a brief introduction to themselves. We are joined by Aaron Clayton, Kathy Rowe, Garrett Wagner, and my co-moderator, Alexander DeFelice. And I'll have each of them tell you a little bit about themselves. Aaron?
My name's Aaron Clayton. I'm a partner at Eide Bailly. I work on the audit side for the firm. I also have the opportunity to serve in a variety of industry roles and serve as the audit department head for our local office.
I'm Kathy Rowe. I'm with WOLTERS KLUWER. I lead our U.S. professional business for professional accounting firms, right from a small firm right up through the Big Four. My background is I'm a CPA as well, and I have experience both in a small firm and a large firm. And really what my role is really understanding the industry trends, what customers need, firms need, and to make sure that we have the short-term and long-term strategy to support that growth.
Garrett.
And I'm Garrett Wagner, CEO and founder of C3 Evolution Group. We provide innovative solutions to today's CPA firms. And today I am a semi-professional button pusher for the third ring.
Yeah, that's all.
A lot of pressure.
And I'm Alexandra DeFelice, Director of Marketing and Business Development for Payne & Fears Law Firm in Southern California. Previously worked for several accounting firms and organizations, and I've been moderating with Gail over the last 2 days, and I am the double bell ringer.
All right, thank you. Well, Kathy, when you introduced yourself, you made some comment about the fact that you're tracking trends in accounting firms, and this is what this session is really all about. Accounting firms have changed a lot in the last at least 5 to 10 years. What kind of trends are we seeing, and how do they qualify as being part of a modern accounting firm?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've certainly moved on. When I was working at a CPA firm back in the late 90s, early 2000s, certainly we had ledger paper. We had those big bags that we used to bring and banker's boxes. So those are definitely long gone. So what the modern firm really looks like today has moved from traditional services, core compliance, audit, and tax, and to more, how can we still do that, but how can we add value-added services, being able to provide more services and really be that trusted advisor. So that's really what a modern firm is, to stay competitive and make sure that we're protecting the profession and really helping our clients with their business. What that looks like is really how you get to be a modern firm. You need to step back and look at people, process, technology at a really deep level so that you can make sure that you're modern and that you are able to be competitive and achieve those outcomes. So there's lots I can say on people, process, and technology.
I think we'll do that.
And
during
that's
the
really
day.
interesting because it just came up on another session as well, and we're just seeing these trends that come up. So we will probably delve into each one of those a little bit further into the session today.
And Garrett, what are you seeing? Because you deal with a lot of different accounting firms.
I mean, very similar. Like, we've got that legacy compliance work that's never going to go away. And then we've got all this advisory forward-looking stuff. We got the backwards and the forwards, and it's tough to balance those two because they're like two different businesses and companies. Like you're talking about, the audit work is like this, and the advisor work's like this, and there isn't an overlap. And it's hard for big firms and small firms to manage that. And I think, talk about modern firms, I think one of the pivotal points is like being intentional. No matter what you want to do, like, you're intentional and you have a plan. You're not just going from being busy to busy and deadline to deadline. You are, here's what I want to look like, what I want to do, people, process, technology, all those pieces. Like, you have a plan, and you're not just kind of like going with the flow. And that's what I've seen the firms that have really grown and been successful the past couple of years. They've had a plan. They're intentional what they do versus those that are just kind of like, yeah, same thing I've been doing, just like so busy, can't handle it. We don't have enough people,
Right.
don't know what to do with technology.
The risk in my mind is that you'll quickly become obsolete. You won't be a good target for an acquisition when you want to retire if that's all you're thinking about.
Oh yeah, it's just so hard. And like, yeah, I hear the same problems from them now I heard 5-10 years ago. And they're like, yeah, same thing. Like, audits are still hard. Like, yeah, we're still trying to get paperless. Like, yeah, engagement, we're still trying to like do stuff in engagement. And you and I'd be like, yeah, we stopped like talking about that in like 2004. Like,
Yeah. Well, engagement's in the cloud now. It really will help.
yeah, but to them they'd be like, I can't even start with that. They're like, I barely use engagement now. Like, and you're telling me there's something new, like.
So, Aaron, you're kind of riding the wave of being with a firm that it would qualify as a modern firm. So how have things changed while you've been there?
Yeah, they've changed a lot, and they haven't changed too. I think, to Kathy's point, I think about my evolution in a public accounting firm, and when I started, we used paper, and shortly after I started, we were paperless. And you think about where we're at now with technology, some of those same issues we had back then with change and evolving, we're having now with just a different set of technology changes. So same as last year isn't acceptable anymore, whether it's for your people, for your clients, and to really grow your firm. So it's being, making sure that you're accepting that change that's necessary for your firm to continue to progress within the field, not only for the people at your firm, but also for your clients.
Okay.
So where do you start with that, Aaron? Because, the whole 2 days is about changing your firm, bringing on more things, saying no to the things that you've done in the past, making a better life for yourself. Oh my God, my mind is spinning. I can't sleep. I'm having nightmares. How am I going to do all this? Where do I start?
Yeah, where do you start? I think it's probably, from the technology standpoint, understanding what opportunities you have to really grow and make your practice more efficient. And then from the other standpoint in serving your clients, understanding what their needs are, where you can supplement the services that you're providing to them, because that's the side that I see overall continuing to grow. To Garrett's point, the traditional audit, tax, core services, those probably aren't going to go away. And 15 years ago, sometimes that's all your clients needed. Now, it's in a variety of other areas too, whether that's different tax services, whether that's international tax. Just got done talking about state and local taxes and some of those services. It's continuing to grow, and being able to, as a firm, know what those resources are that you need to provide better service to your client, I think is important too.
And it can be hard because there's so many options. Like, whether your firm's one person or hundreds of thousands, like, there's so many options to pick from. So you really got to kind of know, like, what's that initial plan? Like, what do we want to focus on? Do we want to reduce those hours? If so, what's that what's that 6-month goal we're going to focus on? We're coming up on busy season. What is it? Is it audit side? Is it tax side? Because you really can't move to all that extra value-added stuff if you're still busy doing the compliance stuff. There's just not enough time in the day.
It's funny, Gary, because I thought when you were going to say, what should I focus on? You were going to go, should I focus on business licenses? Should I focus on tax? We were going to do the services, but instead, so let's talk about one of the things you said, reduce hours. What could be the other options? Like what if you're helping them come up with a goal and then figure out what services to add or eliminate as a result of those goals?
But that's just a cliffhanger. We're going to get that answer right after we take a really quick break. We'd like to hear a brief word from our sponsor, Wolters KLUWER, and when we come back, we'll show you the first CPE code for this session. And we are back, and if you check the bottom of your screen right now, you'll see the first of 3 CPE codes for this session. So be sure to write that down if you're planning on claiming CPE credit for this session. Okay, Garrett, where were you? We left
Back
off
to the
there.
cliffhanger. I'll toss it again for
Yeah.
anyone who might
Thank
have been overwhelmed with the CPE is, okay, I thought you were going to say where to start, meaning tax or business, going for sales tax or business licenses or cybersecurity or all the zillion of things. But you said, what do you want to do as your goal? Do you want to reduce your hours? What could be some other goals? And then once you have those goals, decide which services you want to add or eliminate.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. We can almost spend a whole session on what are the options of, like, maybe you want to be a tax shop. Maybe you just want to do audits. Maybe you want to do just school audits, or you just want to do international tax returns. It runs the gamut. And maybe you want to do lower end tax returns or higher end tax returns. It can really be whatever, but it's for you figuring out like what's, and we talked about in the green room of like, how do you bring that passion to your work?
Exactly.
Like, what's going to bring that passion to you and then to your people? The great thing for us is we got a ton of options. The bad thing is you got a ton of options.
But I think it's really thinking with the end in mind. That's something that I always like to kind of stay focused on. What is your strategy? What is your end goal? And getting that focus so that you can share it within the firm and have a shared vision. But then in terms of how you're going to get there, that's how you need to plan it. What is your roadmap from a people, process, technology standpoint?
Yeah, and like I said, being intentional with it of like, here's my roadmap, here's what we're going to do, and you might change along the way.
So that's a great transition. We'll start with the first P with you, Kathy, with the people.
Yeah.
Where do you get started there?
Yeah, I think being a modern firm is really centered around people first, and that for you to be able to achieve that, being able to go from compliance to value added and being that trusted advisor and being able to provide more services, you need to have people that have the right aptitudes, they have the right core competencies that may be different from yesterday and the years past. They're able to embrace change, they're curious, they want to learn, they don't mind exploring and being innovative about doing new things. So really it starts with people who are curious, and they will find the technology, they'll drive the innovation, and then guess what? That will also attract the best talent to the firm so that you have that modern firm. So it's really that vicious circle that starts with people and that different mindset.
So that sounds great for when you're hiring new people. But what happens with your existing team? Are you going to have to fire everybody who you work with because they're no longer the right person for your firm? Or can you teach them those skills that you want to
I think
evolve?
you can definitely teach. I think it's really doing a lot of, and having that proper tone at the top is really, really key. I think it's setting time aside and being intentional in terms of what are you trying to achieve, to have that shared vision, embrace change management, do webinars, training, bring on people to help, reverse mentor in some cases, so you can learn from new staff coming in. So I think you can definitely teach the old dog new tricks, if we'll say.
Yeah, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. And that's part of being the modern firm, of recognizing sometimes it doesn't. You know, for us with the team, it's one of those things we teach and we encourage, just like, how do we wow our clients? And like if something happens and maybe it goes bad, when we talk about it internally, what was your goal there?
Yeah.
Like when you did that, were you trying to wow the client? And if you were doing that and you thought through that and it still didn't work, well, that's okay, because you were.
Right.
We can't be perfect, but you're around that right mindset of like, we're not just trying to like do something.
Exactly.
We're really trying to like
and
wow
if
them.
you have like a shift in your culture in terms of embracing failing, and failing fast is okay versus you need to be perfect to try something. So I think that's also important. And again, that's tone at the top in terms of exploring new ways of doing things. And if it doesn't work, then you can pivot. But it's important to be able to have that mindset, figure out how you're going to measure that success, and then be able to evolve and change rapidly.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we talk about if something goes wrong, of like, hey, it's okay, it didn't work. But how were you trying to wow the client?
Right.
Like as long as they can answer that, the failure, the mistake is irrelevant in my mind.
Right.
It's part of that culture of like, you had that goal. Now, Aaron, for you guys, how do you guys as a bigger firm try and manage this just difficult beast?
I think the tone at the top is a really important aspect of it, because with everything we're talking about, I would say there's a change there in handling how you interact with the staff that you have, and to some extent, making sure that you're really, the place that they see themselves long term, and that they can grow in their professional skills. So that change isn't easy for individuals that have maybe grown up with a different mindset. So the change isn't just for the new employee coming in. The change is for everyone that's at the firm, and making sure that from their standpoint, they're making that change to make the experience the best possible for the employees.
And I think if everybody knows the goals and the strategy, and it's the organization, the firm, even Wolters KLUWER, we have a shared vision. We communicate it all the time, and then we make sure that everybody has goals that cascade, both performance goals and development goals. And whether it's Wolters KLUWER or a firm, I don't see it as any different. Being able to have that, so everybody knows how they need to evolve and invest in their careers.
But it is that change, and we've got an employee on the team, and he might be watching right now. He's old. He's that old dog, and like he struggles with when our employees are in different time zones. We had a woman this summer that visited family in Hawaii, and we're on the East Coast, and he was like, "Well, she's not available," and I was like, "Why?" And he's like, well, "She's in Hawaii. How do I know? Like it doesn't matter. Like."
How do I know what time it is?
But that's that old school mentality of like he's used to like in office and everyone being that same
models,
time zone of like, and I'm like, no, like she'll reply to you either right away if she's working, or within 24 hours because she's working from Hawaii. Like, just email her. Like, don't call me. But that was his, like, he really struggled with that difference of we're out here to now we're dispersed.
Yeah, I mean, definitely embrace that type of change, different staffing models, which again, as I think about modern firms, I think about the different staffing models, but also firms embracing, especially small firms, outsourcing to help in busy season augment their staff so that they can get through that core compliance and then focus on the advisory. So I think outsourcing, another major trend that we're seeing is private equity. And private equity is coming into play because a lot of firms, whether small or large, are looking for the technology investments so that they can take that off their hand and really help standardize a lot of those investments and best ways of working and standardizing ways of working, while the partners and the CPAs can really focus on what they're good at. So we're definitely seeing that as a trend that we're monitoring.
I have two follow-up questions on the people, one for Kathy, one for Garrett. start with Garrett. You said, don't ask me that. Why are you asking me that? One of the things that when we had the Get the Life You Want seminar, we were talking about like not giving out your cell phone, not like setting, like that used to be the standard. I put my cell phone number on everything, right? Like, so how is that a shift? Or, because we used to be like, you know, we went from rapid response all the time. The clients are expecting you to like respond ASAP. The people inside the firm are expecting their coworkers to respond. Do you see something shifting in that regard?
I mean, there can be. You can do it both ways. I think it's intentional for everybody's different. Like, I like that lifestyle and choice of like, it's fast, it's quick, it's moving, I'm always available till I'm not. Others don't, and they want to be more like, I'm available in these hours, and I respond. As long as you're clear and you've got a plan and you're sticking, and you let the people you know who you work with, your clients or your coworkers, hey, here's the deal. Like, I'm going to respond 8 to 5, and then I'm going to wait.
I just to jump in there, I very much believe in work-life balance, but work is very much part of my life. So that, and running a tax business, I'm pretty much available 24/7. However, back to, I really believe that for us to be our best selves at work, we need to have that good work-life balance. So for myself, I focus on a daily yoga practice and doing things with my family outside of work, and making sure that my team is able to support me when, you know, we need to make sure tax is available and working correctly through tax season. So we'll actually hand off, like if I'm going into a yoga class, I'll actually tell someone on my team, like, hey, I need you to be available for the next hour. And we at Wolters KLUWER, we've focused in on what's called the multiplier concept, and because it's not just one person to be able to answer all the questions and make things happen. It's how can you multiply your entire team and empower your entire team to be available and present.
And that's a really hard thing for CPA firms to like make that big pivotal change from like, it's the partner that is the only one that could possibly like do this, answer the question, do it all, and these 300 other people like cannot, to like, they almost all could answer 90% of the questions.
I think that's really critical that firms, whether you're big or small, really look to how to address is how do you want to empower and enable the staff? Because as the CPA, like people are retiring from the CPA profession, less people are coming in. So how can you get CPAs at a higher credential, at the top of their credentials faster, and enable them with data-driven decisions to be able to answer questions?
You keep loading up with so many follow-up questions. I have Aaron, do you have anything to add to this?
Well, I was going to say, you know, on the work-life balance and some of those aspects, we always talk flexibility with accountability, and you know, we as a firm, you know, we understand everybody's mode of working, what they need in their personal life, what they need from a flexibility standpoint. That's different. Like, we each have what works best for us, and ultimately, you know, as folks work, and as long as they're being accountable to their teams, to their clients, to the other shareholders that we have, and so forth, within the services we provide, as long as they're being accountable, the flexibility, you know, is there for them to make the experience what they want it to be.
While we're still talking about people, there's been a lot of discussion about the change of accounting firm structures. And so if we're moving into the modern firm, are we going to get out of the pyramid structure and lots of staff and a few partners at the top, and you work your way up through that ladder, and is that still going to be the main form of accounting firms going forward, or are we seeing different structure models out there?
I mean, we're kind of just at that beginning of that disruption of like, what's it going to pivot to? You know, it doesn't seem like it's going to stay the same way it is forever. They'll try and hang on as they can, but like you mentioned, private equity, that brings in such a different piece. And I think private equity too, for large firms, is something very different, and for small firms, it's a very different approach. You know, for small firms that have no potential buyer or succession path, private equity is that new like lifeblood of like, well, I can sell my firm now to private equity. I'm a solo practitioner, and they'll buy my firm. It comes with pros and cons. You know, they're going to try and buy a bunch of them and jam them together and sell them again, but it gives you an exit path you might not have. But yeah, Gail, I think we're starting to see that of what's it going to be, and we'll start to see some firms like, I think, move away from that partner model, because it's not really prevalent in the rest of the world. Like, it's not other industries aren't coming to us being like, oh my God, these accountants nailed it. Like, we all need to have a partnership model and like ditch our corporate structure.
Yeah.
So moving away from accountants, and this was a question that I've been waiting in here to ask you, Kathy, is one of the things that you mentioned in our planning call was about recognizing the value in staff, not just accounting professionals. And you mentioned about outsourcing, and from the administrative standpoint, I started thinking about like insourcing. Are there more tasks that maybe accountants used to do that accountants don't need to do that we can give to administrative professionals?
Yeah, I think absolutely is the answer. And we can also give it to technology. So there's a lot of tasks.
You keep foreseeing my next question. Jeez. Okay, go ahead.
She's a professional. She's got a time.
There's a lot of different tasks that I think can be eliminated. In fact, there's a quote that I came across the last few days. It's been around for a while, but will AI replace humans? And the answer is no, but humans with AI may replace humans without AI. And I think that is really important. It's, yes, I think we can outsource core tax compliance, CAS type of work to people that can do it much faster. But I think also there are some administrative things that people can do, and you can be repetitive, whether it's...
What would be some examples?
Like creating engagement letters, like the standard for engagement letters. But I honestly think the answer is in technology. How can you automate rolling forward all your engagements every year through APIs? How can you set up client organizers and get those sent out? How can you automate your email correspondence? Or how can you automate bringing research directly in the workflow and understanding the complexities? Lots of things.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a lot, and we probably need to take a break before we get into that, right?
Exactly. This is a really good breaking point, because then we're going to get into that, and it won't be a quick conversation. So we want to take just a moment to hear a word from our sponsor, Wolters KLUWER, and when we return, we'll be displaying the second CPE code for this session. So we'll see you in a minute.
Firms face unprecedented challenges, from new compliance pressures to greater competition for talent. To ensure continued growth and profitability, firms need flexible and scalable solutions that will fit their needs, even as their needs change. Trusted by counting today's fastest growing firms, CCH Access is the engine that powers the industry's top performers. The most complete cloud-based accounting firm technology platform, CCH Access Solutions help firms take the hassle out of tax compliance, deliver higher quality audits and improved peer reviews, and create a more modern firm experience. Reduce the time your firm spends on basic compliance work so you can grow more value-added parts of your business. Centralized data in the CCH Access platform provides a complete picture of your client relationships so you can serve them better. While staffing challenges are increasingly common, client expectations have only increased. The CCH Access platform enables firms to maximize capacity by automating repetitive tasks and identifying red flags that may need more attention. Improve efficiency in your processes while building cohesiveness throughout the firm. The CCH Access platform provides a single source of truth for firm data and a multi-dimensional view of firm performance. Finally, you'll create a more modern firm experience for clients and staff with the CCH Access platform's cloud-based workflows. Anywhere, anytime access enhances work-life balance and provides staff with the flexibility they're looking for. The CCH Access platform offers the right features for your firm, now and in the future. Visit engagetax.wolterskluwer.com/CCH Access to see our latest innovations and learn how CCH Access can help your firm evolve.
And we are back. If you look at the bottom of your screen, you will see the second CPE code for this session. So be sure to write that down if you're planning on collecting CPE credit for this session. Okay, we left off, I think, with Kathy, and we were going to say something about...
I think we're going to go, because we had the people, processes, and technology. So I think we were going to skip the processes for now and go into technology and then circle back. if you will.
Okay, all right. So on technology, there's a lot to say. Definitely what we're seeing from working with firms and in the industry, that the fastest growing firms, again, small or large, are people who are embracing the cloud. So that seems sort of table stakes now, but you'd be surprised at the number of firms that are not quite there, having a cloud and a platform and being able to tap in and harness the data on it. So that is really step one in terms of technology, is really embrace the technology that you have and make sure you're leveraging all of it. So many people are only leveraging 50% of the technology that they have.
I think even less. Even in Outlook, right? They probably don't, something as simple as that, right?
Yeah, exactly. The second piece is platform. So being able to make sure you look at what are the tools that you need to support that end-to-end workflow for tax, audit, compliance, for your firm, because underneath that platform is data. And a big piece of the modern firm and being able to get to that end game that we spoke about is to be able to harness data. So data is really king, because data will enable the people, they'll enable your clients and the best experience. So really embracing platforms that are in the cloud, that have the accessibility for the data interoperability across vendors outside your core platform as well as across your core platform.
So, Erin, you were excited about the data, I think. What are you guys using? I mean, I think there's too much data, right? Like, as a marketing person, I used to not have enough data, and now there's so much data that I don't know what the heck to do with it, and I just put it in like a file, and I just get scared and run away. What are you doing with it in your firm?
Yeah, I think when we think about the modern firm and the use of data, I think there's a lot of KPIs that firms can use to basically help them grow. And this goes back to everything that's kind of been discussed already with, you need to have a vision for your firm and what that is, and along with that, develop the different KPIs that are going to help you achieve that vision for not only growth within your firm, but the people within your firm too. So determining, what things are most impactful to help your firm succeed and have that vision that you want. To Garrett's point, it can be a lot of different things. If you're focused on profitability, making sure that you're working with those clients that help you achieve that. If it's making sure that your retention rate for your employees is high, that can go back to a variety of things that may not be achieving the most hours or may not be working with the difficult client. So I think aligning that vision, identifying those KPIs, and then focusing on those specific ones that help you achieve the vision, that's going to be the most important thing.
But if you identify those KPIs and you don't have a platform to be able to tap into the data to calculate and monitor and drive and communicate the KPIs, then how do you do it?
Well, that's where it comes together. Just like if we were to help a client with a data-driven decision, you might want to do this, but if you don't have the data to do it, it all kind of falls apart. So it kind of goes hand in hand. And the data is getting better in some cases, so we're seeing some more spread. But yeah, you just got to kind of find that path of where do we actually have enough reliable, accurate, timely data.
Right.
Because if it takes you 6-8 weeks to pull this data, that also cannot be useful.
Exactly.
Like if it needs to be much more timely.
Yeah, and when I think about data, I think, firm level KPIs, staff level KPIs, so you can drive like what you're ultimately trying to measure, whether it's revenue, profitability, what have you. But then even at a client standpoint, like what are some different KPIs or data that you want to be able to have so you can provide the best service for your client, like identifying risks or anomalies. Again, if you can't tap into that with technology, to bring it back to your question, you're really blind.
One, I think also you talk about the client side. Like if you're really trying to focus on growing your advisory services, the KPI can also be a little simple. Like here's my list of clients. What are the opportunities? Like it's not much more complex than that of, are there opportunities or not? If there are, what are they? And you kind of start to track them. Like it doesn't.
Do you start with your whole client list? That sounds exhausting. Do you stop?
You'll be able to filter out a big chunk of them across the board of any firm across their side. If you get all their corporate clients, just like at a marketing standpoint, you'll be like, hey, at least half this list I can cut off. They have there's no opportunity for substantial advisory growth with both of these. Or
some people call that client culling, but I like to actually coin it, and other people do too, revenue replacement. Like and they make a concerted effort. What I've seen firms do is every single year they'll look at those KPIs at a firm level, at a client level, to see which clients aren't within my strategy, aren't within kind of my niche. And I'll have a soft landing, so really a good strategy on where I can, nicely pass them off to another firm that may have a better strategic fit, and then bring on new clients that more fit your strategy.
And I think Aaron was talking about, we've talked about, you use nice words. We talked about firing your clients in other sessions. So Aaron, what is your experience with this?
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult thing. Like, we all have relationships with those clients, and we've watched them, grow and help them along the way. So when you get to the point of, potentially cutting ties with them, it's never an easy thing to do. But, in a lot of situations, it may be the right thing to do, whether that's from, a making money perspective or, the perspective we think about a lot of times is, the impact on our people, going back to retention and making sure that we're working with clients that our people enjoy working with too.
How do you know? Are they complaining to you like, I can't deal with this client? Or do you just see their face turning red? Like, do you have a reporting mechanism for this?
Yeah, it's probably a combination, but a lot of times I think within a firm, people know. And, you as a partner within a firm, if you don't know, you should.
Shame on you.
It's tapping back into those KPIs, even like looking at realization rates and where people are spending time and struggling and.
Yeah, I mean, imagine on your side, on the law firm side, I bet if you go to anybody in the law firm and say, like, who's the least popular client, like, they're all going to, like, you don't need any kind of fancy reporting. They're all just going to, like, instinctually know the answer to that.
And it'll be, you'll get the same response, depending on how many people know about them, because people talk too. Yeah. So even staff that don't work with that client, they may know that they're a bad client, or they're they're a client that
our goal from a technology standpoint is how can we enable you to have great clients? So being able to ingest data in a timely way, make it really easy so that the client knows exactly what they have outstanding, and then being able to communicate them through your core workflows on a timely basis. So.
And even this reminds me, I knew one firm that was growing, and they're doing a lot more advisory work. And what they did was, listen, every time we land a big advisory project for a client, we will fire 5 of our lowest tier clients. And it was a big party though, like, and everyone was excited of, like, we're celebrating that we're moving in this direction.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And we're celebrating the fact that we're getting rid of these bottom ones that just everyone makes their skin crawl.
And those 5, the revenue was probably less than the one,
exactly.
right?
Yes.
So but I think it's like back to your point on having strong relationships. It's really important to have a soft landing so that you also protect your reputation within your community as well.
So when you fire clients, do you offboard them to someone else, or do you just say, get out of here?
I think it just depends on the relationship and the client. And there's some clients where they might be so difficult, you don't really want to be like I don't want to call Gail and be, hey, Gail, good news. Like, Kathy needs help with her taxes. Like, can she go to you? And you're going to be like, yeah. And then you're like,
junk is
and
your
then
treasure.
you get her, and it's like, oh my God, what did you do to me?
and then I get this angry text message from Gail of like, what did you do? Like, some of those you just can't. And others, like, where it might just be more a cultural fit. Like, I know that Kathy's going to enjoy it with you so much more than us. Mm-hmm. You can do that.
Mm-hmm. So I think this is a good time to transition into processes. I'm going to toss it back to you again because you're the one that laid out these 3 buckets, Kathy. And I think that it's a hard bucket to, like, again, how do we get started? You're giving me all these things I should do.
Yeah.
How do I go about doing it?
Yeah, I think that standardization is a big piece. And we often will look at, we spend time doing contextual design with firms, like really what are the objectives and what are the goals that they need to accomplish and what are the barriers that we need to overcome and how do they need to work with their team members, with staff, with pieces of data. So I think it's important for firms to almost really understand their process, make sure it's standardized as much as possible across the different industry groups to remove different ways of working, different tech stacks. So that's really step 1, is to really map it out, almost do like a Lean Six Sigma project in a way to remove wait time, remove duplicate work. So I think that is really the first step. And then as you look at the process, where are the manual pieces that you're doing today that you could solve with technology? So for example, how are you ingesting, gathering data? is that flowing properly into your tax solution, into your audit solution? Do you have the automation set up between like your engagement management type of solutions and your tax solutions? Is that flowing? Do you have all of the right kind of options turned on? So I think really stepping back and looking at your entire process end to end and looking for those inefficiencies is really critical.
Yeah, I think for a lot of firms, they don't need new technology if they can standardize their process, which we've been talking about forever. Of like, if there's 30 partners, there's not 30 processes. There's one process. That'll go a long ways, and then better use the technology you have.
Right.
Like so many that I work with on technology-wise, they'll be like, I want to do more with API or bots or whatever it is, and I'm like, we need to start with like the foundational stuff, like engagement. When you and I can talk forever, like, how about you use engagement? Like, can we use maybe like 30% of engagement? Right?
Yeah.
Let's do that before we move on to.
I think another big piece is like thinking about the willingness to rethink your process and re-engineer in a way. So a lot of times when we think about the modern and the future, it's not just taking what you did in the paper world and automating and putting it in the cloud. It's how can you do the job differently? It's the jobs to be done. There's a great video out there, Clay Christensen, on the job of the milkshake even. It's kind of a fun 5-minute clip to watch, but like in our technology world, a great example is bank confirmations. So as we've just relaunched our solution called CCH Access Validate, and it's not getting a bank confirmation in the same traditional way. Imagine that you're able to get the data that you need from a bank within you get your client authorization, and then you almost immediately have it in your audit environment. Real time, without having to like go to the bank, taking the manual step and like mailing it or automating that mailing process. You're able to connect directly to the bank. So really accomplishing and doing the job in a different way, you can achieve the outcome much, much faster with higher quality.
How much real time is actually happening, especially like you guys in daily practice? How has that impacted the ability to do real time transactions? How has that impacted what you do?
I think it's helped us from really a project management standpoint and looking at things, and with that, it goes to the whole KPI, getting the mindset of what you want to accomplish on an individual project, and then using that more real-time information to help you understand where you're at and if you're accomplishing what that goal is. So. It's helped us a lot just from that project management standpoint to be able to, but it can't just be one thing by itself. It has to also be that learning, that training of people to get them to have that same mindset. So I think about what we did previously, and it was a lot of looking back. Now it's a lot of looking at it now, along with goal setting ahead of time, to use that throughout the process to make smart decisions.
Sally's gone out the door.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, just in terms of real time from a tech standpoint, and just thinking and building on what you were saying around enabling staff and making sure that they're smart, is especially with the advancements of Gen AI, we've been looking at how we can deliver research and content in the tax workflow, in the audit workflow, so that you can really enable and enrich real-time answers to your professional.
Yeah, because that kind of brings it all together. The people, the technology, the process, like help them master their jobs. They're good at it. They have ownership over it. Like they're not just doing a bank rec, or they're not just doing accounts receivable confirmations. Like, do they understand why? Like, what is the goal with accounts receivable confirmation or the bank confirmation? Like, we're trying to prove out existence at this threshold.
Ownership.
Yeah, in this way, like we're tying back to some assertion, like those accounting terms of like, there's a reason we do these things in these audit programs versus just the Sally of like, I can do the cash audit program, I can do it well, I do not know what it means or any of those steps, but I can check those boxes too. Like Aaron, what you're talking about, like, hey, how do those staff people understand what they're doing so they can think about, does this all make sense under the big scope of our audit? Whether assess risk.
I think that's a really key issue, is how do we enable staff, but how do we really make sure they understand if they're not going through the mechanics that you used to have to do?
Yeah, and I think, as Garrett talked about processes, there's not going to be one technology tool that will solve all our problems. So I think you have to take a close look at the processes you have in place, what's working, along with the technology to determine kind of where you're at before you move forward with some of those technologies that will hopefully make you more efficient. To summarize kind of the discussion overall, I think KPIs and APIs, like those are some of the things that as we move forward that will be important, but I don't think you can just implement them and be successful. I think you have to look at every aspect of what you're doing as a firm and understand that not all your processes that you're doing right now are probably to the level that they need to be, and how do you start there kind of as a beginning point.
Yeah, absolutely.
And being really, you got to be okay with that, of moving past what you have now, not being tied to that salary of like, we've always done this or that process that way. We've always done a 1040 this way. Okay, great. It wasn't very efficient. It didn't work. Like,
I'd say it's so critical to just be curious. Like, make sure you build little communities. I mean, this conference alone is great in terms of what's possible, but get out there in the community and just talk with your peer group in terms of what's possible, so that you can, just think about how you can accomplish the same things differently.
yeah, I mean, a lot of times, CPA firms all think they do it the best way. I'm sure you see that when you go to firms. Like, they're like, oh, I've got the best way. I've got the best way to do a 1040. And like, I'm sure you do. Like,
We do.
But being curious, yeah. Your guys are running, but being curious to that, I'm like, okay, maybe there is a different way and something we can do. But I'm sure you guys are curious still of like, how do we continually improve that process?
100%. Yeah,
We're
constantly. We don't look at AI for the sake of AI. We look at what are the customer problems that we're trying to solve for, and how can we solve them differently using advanced technology. Constant, yeah.
Okay, we're going to come back with some final points in just a moment, but first we want a brief message from our sponsor, Wolters KLUWER. We'll return with your third CPE code, and then we'll wrap this up with a few pointers for you to take away.
Why did we decide to use CCH Access BOI? We were happy with everything that CCH has provided us so far. We got a demo of the software and truly fell in love with it day one. It was better than any other solution out there. And we felt that in order to provide the best client service that we could, that this is something we should do for our clients.
Welcome back, and if you look at the bottom of your screen, you will see the third CPE code for this session. Thank you, Garrett.
There we go.
All right, be sure to write that code down if you're planning on collecting CPE credit for this session. Okay, I think we had some questions from the audience.
Yeah, there was a few questions about niches and how are you, because I think it might be because we've talked about them at some of the other sessions, how are you deciding what niches that you should go into, and what are the resources involved with those, with either launching a niche or focusing more on a niche? And I want to toss it to Aaron because we were talking about this a little bit in the planning session.
Yeah, I think a lot of which niches we go into probably come from client needs, and what they're needing, what we're seeing as far as needs, along with trying to anticipate some of that too. I think the important part when you go into those niches is identifying the right leaders to help with those services.
Meaning within your own firm.
Within your own firm, or even external. I would say a lot of times for us, it's probably identifying a thought leader in those areas that may be able to help with that. And I think as smaller firms, they can leverage relationships with other firms or relationships with individuals that may perform that work to still be able to provide services to their clients. A lot of ours is, finding somebody that we think's a thought leader and bringing them into our national tax office or into our practice to be able to help serve those clients. We see, we've seen an immense growth with international tax, state and local, as mentioned before, transfer pricing, tax incentive credits, all sorts of different things that as our clients have had needs, we've been there to hopefully be able to serve those.
And I think, the good thing with the niches is there's no really wrong answer. Just like from a business standpoint, like Walmart is successful and Apple is successful. Small firms can be successful, a cost seg firm can be successful. Once again, be intentional of like, what's your niche? Is it a service area? Is it a service? Is it a price point?
Industry.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many, but just be intentional. Don't just do everything and still do everything, but like, and you can tie it back to like, what are you more passionate about? Like, are you more excited to do international work? Are you more excited to do cost segregation work or business strategy work?
Right. But I think it does, like, back to your point, it really goes back to what are the problems that you're trying to solve for your customer and changing legislation. I mean, this year alone, we had the Corporate Transparency Act that went into effect January 1st. Now, there's been a lot of stuff in the news on beneficial ownership. Just a few weeks ago, we saw a preliminary injunction on that. So the deadline of this January, or the end of the year, I should say, is in question, we'll say. There has been an appeal to have a stay on that preliminary injunction. So it's still out there. The AICPA is recommending for firms to keep filing the services if they're doing it. But it was a great example of your clients need this service. They expect you to be the trusted advisor. So you need to be on top of the changing legislation. And then back to the technology and data part, it's how do you harness the data within your platform to identify which clients you should reach out to offer the service. So I think that's really key, is how do you proactively be that trusted advisor?
Well, and then how do you stay on top of it? What are the resources? Where should you be going? What do you guys do?
I mean, there's a lot, but it's even, I think the BOI is a good benchmark test for firms of, listen, if you were able to quickly pull that client list, analyze and get on it, great, you're doing good. If you're one of those firms that are just like, I don't want to do that. Like, too complicated.
Where are those clients going to go for their service then?
Again, they're going to go someplace else. And like, that was the one AICPA thing of why they were pro this was it would make firms a lot of money. So like, firms, if you pass that up, it's going to have to get done. But some of them, they couldn't even handle it. Like what you're saying there, like that whole idea of like, how do I figure out what to do, figure out a list of clients? They were just like, I'm too busy.
Well, we have diagnostics in our tax software to help with that.
But there are tools, but so many of them just like turned away of just like, I'm not even going to like start that process.
But that happened during COVID too, when there were so many government programs coming out, small business programs and payroll protection and everything. And some firms were like, we're not going to do that. But people needed it.
They need it. And if you're that trusted advisor.
There were people changing clients, companies going to other firms who would do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think whether you're going to do it or not, to Garrett's point, like whether you're going to provide that service or not, it's a different discussion than whether your client's going to be asking for it. And you as the one that you want them to come to when they have questions, you're going to need to know what your resources are, so that you can at least point them in the right direction, even if you're not going to help them.
Yeah, I mean, again, BOI is such a great example. Like, even if as a firm you didn't want to provide that, at Wolters KLUWER, we had self-service options that if you knew the resources, you could appoint them. Exactly. So you still could help your client without providing the service themselves. So I think it's a great example, but I think it really does come into technology and really understanding the changing legislation, and then how does that intersect and impact your client to be able to have, really data-driven decisions on how you're able to identify these niches. Another example it's been in the news before, it's coming up and bubbling up again, and I think will be more prevalent, and that's crypto services. And we will need to file like the gains on crypto in your tax return. Clients have no idea about that. Right. So they need to go.
They don't even know where to get it.
Exactly. They don't know how to do it. Yeah. So like leveraging technology, leveraging your trusted advisor is really key.
And that's the good thing for all of us as accountants and advisors and CPAs. Like, there's so many opportunities today, whether it's crypto, BOI,
business planning,
transfer pricing, business planning, strategic planning, exit plan, all that stuff. Like, there's opportunities galore. Be intentional and start to pick one and move towards it. You got so many tools to pick from.
Yeah, absolutely.
You will always have a job.
Yes. Yes, even with AI, we'll always have a job.
Exactly.
And we'll always have something
if you
to do.
embrace that mindset.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you all so much. This has been great. Thank you for sharing your expertise with us and with our audience.